Chapter 6. A Trap or Two. In the cafeteria, Mexican bean salad had been served, and now Ulrich's stomach was oscillating between satisfaction and restlessness. Oof! Odd panted as he massaged his own stomach. Well, that was just what I needed. Well, at least you avoided eating a triple portion for once, Ulrich commented as he peered around, searching for Yumi. Tell Rosa to stop serving this disgusting healthy stuff, yeah! And now we've got 2 hours of art. At least the beans give me a reason to sleep through it. Sorry, Odd. I've got to go, Ulrich cut him short, leaving his friend alone at the table. Through the windows he had seen Yumi crossing the grounds, surrounded by a small group of friends. Perhaps it was not the best moment in which to approach her, but after what he and Jeremy had discussed the night before, he could not wait any longer. He reached them almost running. Yumi! Sorry, do you have a second? The other girls began to laugh. They always found it comical that a hard-boiled person like Yumi was always hanging out with a younger boy. Yumi struck them silent with a glare. I'll see you guys later. Then, once she and Ulrich were alone, she burst out, So what's so important? I've only got a minute. The boy scratched the back of his neck, embarrassed. It suddenly seemed to him that the collar of his t-shirt was tightening around his throat, starving him of oxygen. His stomach felt like the beans were readying for a spirited game of soccer in his small intestine. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? Yumi continued, losing her patience. Well, so here we are. Great. My compliments. That was a beautiful speech. Did you prepare it in advance? She said, but now she was smiling. Ulrich tried again. Yumi, I've not been very kind with you lately. That's putting it mildly. It's not just that. You're right, though, of course. But that aside, I wanted to apologize. I've been really mean. Yes. And bad-tempered. Also true. She definitely was not making things easy for him, and now the most difficult part of all was coming. Yumi, you and I are more than just friends. You know it as well as I do. Do you want what? You see? I mean, Yumi, I've been mean to you, Yumi. I'm sorry, I swear it. She extended her hand and her fingers brushed against his cheek, which ignited in flames at the brief contact. Let's let it be. I've been crosser than normal myself. We can just put it behind us as if it never happened, okay? She made to leave, but Ulrich moved to block her. Yumi, you and I are more than just friends. Come on, it was just one sentence, but did it have to be so hard to say it? And at that moment, Sissy Delmas angled in towards them, inevitably accompanied by Herv and Nicholas. With an industrial strength dose of confidence, she draped an arm over Ulrich's shoulders, the other gripping him around the waist. Then she squared off with Yumi, looking the other girl in the eye. What a dark expression! You should be gentler with our Ulrich. He's very sensitive, you know that? He needs an understanding girl to take care of... Sissy! Ulrich yelled in annoyance as he distanced himself from her. Yumi and I were talking! Well, I have classes I should be in, Yumi cut him off. Ulrich was about to add something in protest when Sissy took his hand. Herv, Nicholas, you can go too. I'll join up with you later. Ulrich, what would you say to us studying together for the rest of the afternoon? And you're so good at science, you could help me. I've never been good at science, he burst out. If you need help, go ask Jeremy. Yumi turned her back and bade Ulrich farewell with a wave of the hand and a half-smile. He watched her black hair rippling in the breeze as she walked away. Sissy pinched his cheek. Look at that! We're all alone together, just you and me. Maybe it was the beans' fault, but Ulrich's stomach suddenly felt like it was being gripped by a vice. Monsieur Chardin was walking between the desks with his hands folded behind his back and loudly pontificating on the subjects of film, cinematography, and the mysteries of decoupage. Elita snorted in frustration. That afternoon the others would be heading off to the factory to prepare a trap for the Hermitage's intruder, but she had promised Tamia that she would help her with the audio track for a film. Tamia and her friend Millie were the pint-sized staff of the school newspaper, and they also produced videos which they published on the paper's website. For ages, the two munchkins had been pestering Elita for help, and she had not had the heart to deny them. Sissy had already cornered that market. When the bell rang, she approached Odd. So, are you meeting up with the others? He's coming with me, Jim Morales growled, appearing at the classroom door. Since he's being punished, the principal has decided he's going to be doing some odd jobs as community service, so he'll be helping me put the gymnasium in order. Odd raised his eyes to the heavens in dismay. Ulrich laughed sarcastically as he passed by. Work hard, old boy. We'll see you at dinner. Jeremy and Ulrich said hello in passing to Elita as Tamia dragged her away. The little girl was laughing happily from under her Rasta-braided cornrows, and Elita in turn was trying to smile and not cry. Well, that was amusing, Ulrich laughed, waving goodbye. You're heartless, Jeremy chuckled. Together they headed through the grounds of Caddick in the direction of the abandoned factory. The vast building occupied the whole of an islet a short distance from the The vast building occupied the whole of an islet a short distance from the academy and was connected to dry land by an old bridge. When the factory had been mothballed, the road leading to the bridge had been blocked off, so now there were only 3 means of getting there, and all involved traveling underground, from the Hermitage through a long tunnel planned out and built by Franz Hopper, or via the sewers, gaining access either through Kedek's boiler room or a manhole in the grounds. The 2 boys chose, as always, the manhole. Even if the smell was awful, it was the surest way of gaining access without being seen. Together they dug into the snow, and when it had been exposed, they raised the heavy iron disc between them and slipped into the shaft, closing the entrance over their heads as they went. Then they descended a narrow ladder, going hand over hand down metal rungs driven into the metal cement walls, and took a last deep breath to fill their lungs before entering into the stench of the sewers. Everywhere, on the manhole cover and on the rungs of the ladder, there appeared a strange symbol and inscription, the meaning of which Jeremy had never ascertained. Green Phoenix. Reaching the horizontal tunnel, Jeremy seized his scooter and Ulrich's skateboard from where they had been left resting against the wall. The stink in the sewer was strong enough to all but paralyze someone. For some time, the group had decided it best to keep means of transportation on hand so as to speed things up. Racing ahead, they eventually reached another ladder leading up through the roof. Climbing up, they finally emerged onto the factory's access bridge. Huff! Gasped Ulrich when they came into the open air. Could you invent a super deodorant or something for that place? It gets worse down there every time. A fragrant sewer? Don't you think that would be a bit suspicious? The bridge was supported over the river by 2 tall pairs of metal columns from which the suspension cables were strung. It somewhat reminded Jeremy of the Brooklyn Bridge, only far smaller and in great disrepair. Entering the factory, they slid down to the ground floor via some old ropes that still hung from the ceiling. It was a huge environment, a complex tangle of cement, girders, and square windows from which much of the glass had been smashed. Now they approached the elevator, a sort of industrial container that descended underground at the prompting of a dangling control box. This brings back memories, eh? Ulrich murmured. Jeremy did not answer. Since discovering that it was possible to reach the old factory from Kedek, they had many times covered the same route, always in haste, and always with the anguish of monsters to be stopped or friends in peril. It had been dangerous, at times far too dangerous, but it had also been their great adventure. Now that it was ended and the supercomputer deactivated, it seemed to Jeremy that something important was missing from their lives. The first sublevel, the supercomputer's control room, was an immense space illuminated by a dim green light. The center of the room was dominated by a metal ring that jutted up about 30 centimeters from the floor. This was the holographic display that allowed Jeremy to oversee his friends' activities on the Yoko, monitoring their positions relative to those of the monsters. Beside the projector, there was the revolving armchair of the command console, with the associated monitors and keyboard mounted on the end of a huge mechanical arm. Jeremy completely ignored the computer, now sad and darkened, and opened the door of a cupboard in which a little of everything was stored. And then suddenly he began to select circuit boards and robotic components, data cards, and cables. Ulrich squatted down nearby and pawed through all the technical rubbish. "Doesn't it upset you?" he asked his friend. Jeremy looked at him with an interrogative air. "What? Shutting down the supercomputer?" Jeremy sighed, and for a moment he felt his eyes pinched shut behind his glasses. "Honestly, I try not to think about it. All the nights that I spent down here, alone, back when I was trying to materialize that lead into our world, and all the times that I tried to help you guys on the Yoko." "Yeah, you were the mind, and we were the arm, wielding the sword." Ulrich rose to his feet and mimed his way through a pair of Penchak Salat katas, armed with an imaginary sword. Jeremy could remember the real thing as if it were yesterday. Ulrich the Yoko warrior, his special skills, the contests between them. Odd and Yumi to see who could kill the most monsters. Deactivating the supercomputer was like killing a part of myself, he said conclusively. But we had no other option. It was too dangerous. And it would have been pretty useless even if we had kept it online. For a moment, Jeremy's mind returned to that afternoon of some days ago, when the bulbs in his bedroom had exploded. He forced himself to think past it. True. Now that Xana is dead, yes. But for some reason, his voice quavered as he spoke those words. That evening, Odd was alone in his and Ulrich's room, lying on the bed, his back shot to pieces, and all thanks to Jim. The PE teacher had forced him to continually move the gym weights around in their storage cupboard, changing his mind every 30 seconds about the best manner in which to order them. Odd had continually visualized the dinner hour as a distant mirage, a joyous opportunity to speak with his friends, but shortly before arriving in the cafeteria, he received an SMS message from Ulrich on his phone. The trap is set tonight. We'll be eating at the Hermitage. Later. In short, Odd was lonely, tired, and depressed. If he'd only had a little bit of strength left, he would have escaped and joined the others of the villa, or at least have gone to Yumi's house to say hello to Kiwi, but his labors had left him barely able to raise his fingers to change the TV's channel. Now I have to ache the whole evening? He asked the world, And then he noticed several DVD discs scattered over Ulrich's bed, half hidden under the duvet covers. This could be interesting. He managed to ignore the pain in his legs and picked up a handful of DVDs. On the disc, Jeremy had scribbled with a marker, Hermitage Surveillance 1, 2, 3. This was the footage captured by the mini cameras on the first night at the villa. Hardly an action film, but at least Odd might catch a glimpse of this mysterious boy. Or perhaps Ulrich and Jeremy had missed something, and he might just discover it. For a moment he imagined himself attired in James Bond's tuxedo, a red rose in the buttonhole of the jacket and a dazzling smile on his face. On the ground in front of him were his friends, saved at the last moment thanks to his fearless intervention. Eva stepped up and embraced him, seduced by his charm. He inserted disc 1 into the player and set it playing, then laid down on the bed. All that appeared were images of the Hermitage's garden. Quality entertainment indeed! He fast-forwarded through the video, and then inserted disc 2, and then disc 3, and then he fell asleep. Perfume, the scent of fresh fruit, like a sugary veil, a hint of roses. "My love," Odd whispered in his sleep. The sound of sweet, silvery, and very feminine laughter responding made him quickly open his eyes. Odd thought he must still be dreaming. Crouching beside him, her face only a few centimeters from his own, was Eva, dressed in a white blouse and a vivacious, multicolored skirt, her hair tied back by a colorful little ring. The most beautiful girl to have ever lived. No, she was so much more. Divine, angelic, so wonderful and perfect that Odd's throat closed up and he began to sweat. "I'm sorry if I've disturbed you," she said, her fabulous accent tinging her words. "I knocked and no one answered, but I could hear the television and guessed that someone had to be in the room." Eva had knocked at his door? Was she looking for him? Oh, but that was a dream come true. "No, it's totally fine," Odd cried, jumping into his seated position. He rubbed his vision clear with his fingers. "Come, sit where you like." The girl began to explore the room. She opened the wardrobe and closed it again, inspecting the writing desk, glanced at the books and CDs. Odd watched her, captivated. She was a confident one. "You know, it's so boring at my house," Eva said. "My parents are already asleep." "Oh, I think I understand you," Odd approved. The sleep, his confusion, having Eva Skinner materialize a few centimeters from him was really turning his head. And was it him, or was she also peeking under Ulrich's bed? You do know that you shouldn't be here, right?" Odd murmured timidly. "Girls are not allowed to enter the male dormitories after dinner." Eva gave a snort. "They don't catch me. I don't see the problem." It was faultless logic, at least as far as Odd cared, and a nocturnal trap and ambush could be so very boring. Jeremy had worked the entire afternoon preparing his trap, and now was exhausted. In truth, he had not slept during the previous night in order to keep a constant eye on the Hermitage through the cameras. Alita and Yumi had organized the pizza, and they had all eaten in the living room, with one eye on Jeremy's laptop and the other watching a film playing on the TV. "Jeremy, you are sure that this boy will return tonight?" Ulrich asked. "It's very likely," his friend nodded. "Hiroki saw him leaving the Hermitage 2 nights ago, and he returned yesterday. I don't know what he had in mind, but he certainly never accomplished it, since he just looked around and then escaped down the road, so this evening he'll come back." They all stopped chewing. Alita whispered, "I don't feel good about this." Jeremy strove to sound cheerful. "Don't worry, there's nothing you need to do. There are 3 network robots in the grounds around the Hermitage. I've installed motion detection lasers in them, and we can also control the traps from there. If we spot the boy in the cameras, he can't escape." "What if he comes from behind?" Ulrich suggested. "And climb the walls and avoid the traps? No, too complex. Yesterday he came through the front gate, so he'll do the same thing again. And in any case, the rear of the house is covered by the cameras as well. So as I said, there's no way he can escape, which only leaves one thing that you have to do." The others stared interrogatively at him. "Pass me another slice of pizza. I'm starving." Odd did not know what to think. Eva was not only the most beautiful girl on which he had ever set eyes, but she was also nice and intelligent. They had been speaking together for how long now? An hour? Without a moment's interruption or embarrassment. Eva had asked him if he was interested in photography, and he had nodded. He adored the photos of singers in music magazines, but it seemed to him that she had not understood. Instead, she was talking about photography at the expert level. She had shown him some photos of America that had taken his breath away, and she had stacks of information on the use of objective lenses and editing software. All the while she had sat next to him, her wonderful legs crossed over each other, and at times, while speaking, her hand had brushed against his. "You can't stop and sleep here?" he boldly asked when Eva made to rise. He had gone mad. The principal called them. It would guarantee his expulsion. The girl smiled predatorily. "That wouldn't be very profitable to either of us, Odd, but I would like that very much. But maybe one evening you could come and sleep over with me. My parents are often away for work. Do you know my address? I can leave you my telephone number as well." Odd was so stunned that he was barely able to nod his head. Eva laughed again and produced a felt-tip pen out of her pocket. Taking one of his hands, she wrote out the details on the skin of his palm with all the lightness of a butterfly. "There you go. My address and number. Thank you for the evening, Odd. I've had a really good time. Odd's cheeks felt like they had caught fire. Me, too. And I'll never wash this hand again, I swear it. Eva giggled. Then, unexpectedly, while Odd was looking at her with adoring eyes, she stepped forward and kissed him, right on the mouth. Several switches in his mind immediately short-circuited. By the time he himself realized what had happened, Eva had already shut the door behind her. What a girl, he mumbled, his expression blank. In the meantime, his television set had never stopped playing back the footage of the hermitage that Jeremy and Ulrich had recorded the night before, and right then Odd noticed that there was something very, very strange occurring on screen, something that no one else had yet to notice.